He who competes in the open is destined to bleed in the open. That was the unwritten law Machiavelli understood. You won't find it carved into The Prince, and you won't hear it quoted in a meeting room. Yet the most dangerous figures in history live by it as if it were scripture. Because they knew something most people never grasp: power isn't claimed by playing the game better. It's seized by rewriting the rules so the game bends toward you. Open competition, the kind where you display your hand, declare your vision, and attempt to prove your worth, that's nothing but theater. A performance stage for fools. It rewards those who already possess reach, resources, and reputation. And if you're not already powerful, you walk onto that stage only to lose. Machiavelli advised a colder path. Never fight where others can see you. Instead, let them believe you're playing the same game as everyone else. Not agree, even pretend to follow the rules, and then quietly shift the board under their feet. This is the rule of hidden advantage. Once you master it, you don't simply win, you make others believe your victory was inevitable, as if fate itself crowned you. Here's how it plays out. Imagine facing someone dominant, maybe in business, maybe in politics, maybe even in love. Your ego whispers you can beat them. So you march forward, you raise your voice, you push harder, you attempt to shine brighter in the very arena they've already mastered. And inevitably you fall. Not because you were weak, but because you chose the wrong battlefield. Machiavelli's warning was merciless. If you must strike a powerful enemy, do not wound them, destroy them. Otherwise, you only teach them how to destroy you. But most people don't even wound. They annoy, they prod, they provoke, and then they're crushed. Not for lack of talent, but because they fought where they should have disappeared. The hidden advantage is simple: never attack where they expect it. Study what they protect most: status, access, admiration, and then quietly seize what they've neglected. Instead of arguing with the popular figure in public, you build silent influence with the people they overlook. Instead of copying a business model already proven, you dissect its mechanics and then capture a different audience they never bothered to see. That isn't failure. That is asymmetry. And asymmetry wins wars. Think about it. A man might be taller, louder, richer, more seasoned. But if you're the one who decides what winning means, then he will lose. Machiavelli's most subtle manipulations weren't rooted in brute force, but in reframing. Compete in charm. No shift the game to control. Battle on intelligence. No pivot the contest to certainty. Compare wealth. No make the metric who has the power to walk away first. He understood a timeless truth: if you let them define the game, they'll crush you with it. But if you quietly change what the game rewards, they won't even realize they've been defeated until it's too late. Here's the real play. Let them shine. Let them boast. Even give them your applause. Because the more they display, the more exposed they become. And while the crowd watches their fireworks, you shift the ground beneath them. Anchor the game to terrain they've never walked. Claim calm confidence and certainty in that space. But speak less. Reveal less. Because the silence you hold will speak louder than their noise. And soon people will see it. He's burning himself out, proving something that no longer matters while you remain untouched. That's when the frame is yours, and the frame always wins. Understand this: to compete is to expose your hunger. And hunger is the leash by which others will drag you. If they know you want respect, they'll starve you of it. If they know you crave attention, they'll drip feed it to keep you dependent. If they see your thirst for power, they'll crown you ambitious while they play innocent. That is why true power never looks hungry. The Machiavellian never chases, never begs, never explains. He suggests, he hints, he leaves gaps for others to fill. He lets the world project meaning onto his silence. And while they scramble for one doorway, he builds three more. Most fight for one seat at the table. He designs the house that holds the table. That isn't indifference, it's supremacy disguised as stillness. In every structure of power, there's always a choke point. One lever, one gate, one bottleneck that decides who advances and who is stopped cold. It could be information. It could be a single connection. It could be a resource no one else sees. While others perform on stage, Machiavelli quietly takes the backstage key. He funds his rival's enemy. He secures the loyalty of the advisor, not the king. He doesn't need applause. He only needs the choke point. And once you control the choke point, you no longer need to be seen. People come to you because their path runs through your gate. They might never say your name, but they cannot move forward without you. That is the only power that matters. Open competition is a trap. It seduces the insecure. It gives them a stage, a reason to shout, "Look at me, I'm just as good." And Machiavelli would smile, because the very moment you declare equality, you've already lost. Machiavellian power is never equal. It is layered, silent, cold, and unspoken. The one who speaks less holds more. The one who competes less wins more. The one who hides his motives never loses. So remember this: if they see your moves, they can block them. If they hear your hunger, they can starve you. If they believe you're playing the same game, they'll prepare for your strategy. But if you vanish into the shadows, if you move sideways instead of forward, if you build quietly while others perform, you don't just win. You become the rule they never saw coming. A lion shows its teeth. A fox shows nothing. That was Machiavelli's hierarchy of predators. He admired the brute force of the lion, but he worshipped the cunning of the fox. Because only one survives when power is uncertain, and it is always the fox, the one who looks harmless, the one who seems uninvolved, the one who appears to be a spectator, yet whose slightest move redirects the course of every outcome. This is not cowardice. This is the highest form of control. While others waste energy displaying strength, you conserve yours. And in silence, you win without conflict. That is where the hidden advantage multiplies in patience and invisibility and in the mastery of perception. Leadership is often mistaken for spotlight. Most people believe to lead you must be loud, visible, and celebrated. They think you need speeches, banners, and credit. But Machiavelli rejected this illusion completely. True influence comes from invisibility. The one who truly controls the kingdom is rarely the one who wears the crown. The more public you are, the more vulnerable you become. When you lead openly, they analyze you. They criticize you. They plot against you. They prepare for every move you might make. But when you lead from the shadows, you are underestimated, unblamed, unseen, and therefore unchallenged. Machiavelli advised rulers to let others act in their name, to let others take the blame, while the real strategists remain concealed. You don't need the title, you need the leverage, and leverage is always quiet. The moment you provoke a strong opponent, you awaken their energy. They might have ignored you before, but once you strike, it becomes personal. Now they are motivated. Now they have reason to crush you. So Machiavelli would wait. He would appear indifferent. He would feign agreement. He would let them declare victory, let them parade in the open. All the while, he remained silent, patient, calculating. Because ambition burns energy. Arrogance exposes weakness. A man who feels unchallenged grows careless, sloppy, predictable. And predictability is the moment you strike. Not by charging head-on, but by disruption. You pressure their alliances. You sabotage a key resource. You remove a hidden piece that holds everything together. And suddenly, they collapse from within, while you never had to raise a sword. People only defend against what they recognize. If they see you competing, they resist. If they sense your ambition, they prepare. If they understand your strategy, they calculate a counter. But if you appear harmless, distracted, or naive, their guard lowers. And that is when the Machiavellian strikes. He disguises his strategy in innocence. A question that seems curious but extracts a secret. A small favor that builds invisible debt. An act of loyalty that secures long-term leverage. A smile that conceals precise calculation. This is not deception for its own sake. It is engineering outcomes through narrative. Because once they believe they know your intent, they stop searching deeper. And that is where you win underneath the surface while they sleep. Most people don't compete for control. They compete for applause. They want validation. They want recognition from the very crowd that doesn't matter. This is the most expensive game of all, because you trade independence for temporary admiration, and Machiavelli would never play it. While they chase approval, he chases advantage. While they collect praise, he collects secrets. While they stand in the spotlight, he stands beside the one who decides who gets the spotlight. Because here is the truth, the world is full of players, loud, desperate, eager to be chosen. But the selector, the one who decides who rises and who falls, is silent. He is in the room, but not in the spotlight. Be that person. What drives people to compete in the open? The need to prove they're smart, to prove they're strong, to prove they matter. But Machiavelli understood this: the moment you feel the urge to prove, you have already lost status. Because the powerful do not prove. They exist. Their presence is proof enough. If you say, look at how strategic I am, you are no longer strategic. If you say, I deserve more, you are already beneath those who act as though they need nothing. The highest power is not dominance, it is indifference to validation. You cannot be trapped if you do not seek their recognition. You cannot be defeated if you are not playing their game. You cannot be outcompeted if no one even knows what you are building. So you stay still, you observe, you wait, you collect leverage in silence. And when the time comes, you tilt the entire board in your favor. Because it is the illusion of fairness that makes people reveal themselves. Create a competition in public, add applause, ranks, or points, and people will eagerly expose their strategy, believing performance will secure them victory. But the Machiavellian mind knows the truth. Fair games are designed by those already in power, not to test equality, but to filter obedience. If you want to rise by their rules, you must be predictable, transparent, safe. And that is how they defeat you, not with greater skill, but by making you reveal your hand because you believed the game was fair. So Machiavelli warned, never show your true moves when the system is watching. Let them think you are playing. Let them think you care. Meanwhile, operate in the shadows, because that is where real power gathers. The weak fight to win inside the system. The powerful reshape the system itself. You see it everywhere. The worker who rises by doing more is eventually replaced, but the one who redefines how performance is measured becomes irreplaceable. The man who tries to be more attractive than others burns himself out, but the one who creates the illusion of being chosen is chased endlessly. The player who fights hardest in a zero-sum match may impress, but the one who changes the rules, who decides who plays, when they play, and on what terms he owns the entire arena. Machiavelli's deepest lesson wasn't compete strategically. It was this: create the rules by which others measure victory. That is the ultimate hidden advantage. Because while they think they're playing the game, they are actually playing your game. Sometimes the most Machiavellian move is not to fight and not to retreat, but to make others fight each other. To arrange the board so rivals destroy themselves while you rise untouched. This tactic is as old as kingdoms. If two men both seek power, Machiavelli would not confront either. He would whisper to one, flatter the other, feed both incomplete truths, and then disappear. What follows is predictable suspicion, division, collapse. And from the ruins, he collects loyalty. You see this tactic in corporations where mid-level players tear each other apart for promotion. In relationships where tension is redirected sideways, not upward. In politics where rival groups clash, while a third rises silently. Machiavelli didn't win through dominance. He won through confusion. Because if they don't know who the enemy is, they cannot unite. And if they cannot unite, you never have to fight them. Most people chase recognition. Machiavelli chased power. And that is where almost everyone fails. They confuse visibility with control. They believe being seen is being successful. But visibility is not power, it is liability. Because when they see you rise, they resist. When they hear your plans, they prepare. When they know your desires, they block them. The truly powerful trade applause for authority. They don't run the show. They run the one who runs the show. They don't claim the idea. They fund the idea. They don't lead the conversation. They decide who speaks. This requires only one thing: emotional detachment from being known. The weak want to be the face. The strategist wants to own the system behind the face, because the spotlight fades, but control remains. And here is the brutal rule most will never follow. True dominance requires patience, silence, and long-term positioning for outcomes no one else can yet see. While everyone fights for today's victory, Machiavelli was planting seeds that would collapse his enemies a year later. He would lose the argument, but win the throne. He would accept mockery to remain unnoticed. He would nod as the king gloated already, knowing the king's advisor had pledged allegiance to him. To outshine someone is to attract resistance. To outlast them is to inherit everything. Enemies destroy themselves through arrogance, through overreach, through dominance that burns too brightly. You don't need to strike them. You only need to stand when they finally collapse. But this requires a ruthless skill, delayed vengeance, silent victory, quiet building. That is how kings are buried without a sword ever being raised. The greatest danger is being exposed. Once they see that you play in shadows, they'll never let you near power again. They'll study your patterns, preempt your moves, lock you out. That's why Machiavelli's deadliest weapon was psychological. He let them believe he was harmless, loyal, predictable, until the day the board tilted and everything belonged to him. The most dangerous man in the room is never the one in the center. It is the one who built the room, not the competitor, not the ruler, not the warrior, the architect. The one who designs the stage so that every path, every choice, every escape route bends back toward him. This is the peak of hidden advantage. Not playing better, but making others unknowingly play your game. And that is why once you master this rule, the world doesn't just watch, it obeys.